Okay, so the trial starts to begin, and the jury selection starts. And for a trial this big, there's a lot of pressure to pick the right jurors. And I guess you were told to stay away from women jurors.
I was.
But you went the opposite way.
Well, I had a consultant who had a lot of experience, a lot of insight, did a very, very professional profile on what a good defense juror would be, what a good prosecution juror would be, and how different categories like income, occupation, race, religion, political affiliation, she would correlate all these factors with what she thought a theoretically ideal prosecution juror would be and what a theoretically ideal defense juror would be. And I was advised to be very careful with women, stay away from women, particularly mothers. The charges are very disturbing. To anyone who parents children, this is going to be a horrible thing to explain. And I looked at the consultant and said, I'm following my instincts. I like women.
Right. You said you actually chose as many women as possible.
We had a majority of women.
Right.
We did. We disqualified a few, but we had a majority of women on the jury, which is what I wanted.
Right. You said I had to consider who'd be most receptive to my efforts at humanizing Michael Jackson.
Yes.
Prosecutors were trying to viciously attack his sexuality. They alternated between claims that he was gay and asexual.
Yes. The prosecution, directly and indirectly, overtly and subtly, were trying to attack Michael Jackson's sexuality. They were calling him a pedophile. They were calling him asexual sometimes. They were suggesting he was gay. They were doing anything they could to try and alienate him from the jury in that location, in that part of Santa Barbara County, which tends to be very conservative. And it was nasty and degrading and malicious what they were doing, but I knew what they were doing. Somebody had told these prosecutors, whenever you can, use the phrase sleeping with little boys, sleeping with little boys, sleeping with little boys, anything to dehumanize Michael Jackson. I wanted women for a number of reasons. First of all, I thought men in general would be far more judgmental of Michael Jackson than women. I generally have found women to be much more emotionally flexible and available, particularly when a male's sexuality is being attacked. They don't get judgmental the way men can. Heterosexual men can be rather insecure about their sexuality. When you attack Michael Jackson that way, you're trying to just generate prejudice against him, and you're being invited to give yourself a sense of security by judging him harshly. In cases where I had defended gay men, I always found heterosexual women to be much more receptive to the truth and much less harshly judgmental right off the bat than heterosexual men. Obviously, gay women or gay men were fine. But, defense attorneys have to face reality. You've got a life on the line. You've got to follow your instincts, even if these are generalities that don't always apply. And even if these generalities sound somewhat demeaning or offensive elsewhere, you've got to follow your experience. You've got to follow your intuition. You've got to follow your instincts. And I ended up with a jury that I felt would be open-minded to the truth and not judge him because he was a different kind of person.
Right, because I remember that was always the question in my mind of, well, is Michael Jackson gay or straight? Now, that doesn't necessarily, mean that he's into children, but he's being accused of molesting boys. So the gay part was always a question in my mind. And I remember at one point I went through the paperwork from the sheriff's office of all the stuff that they found in Neverland Ranch. And it was actually a large pornography collection of like straight porn, like, kind of stuff I would watch. And at that point I said, okay, that's all nonsense. Michael Jackson seemed like he was a straight man.
Well, when they raided Neverland, and again, it was 70 plus sheriffs raided Neverland, they found hordes of Playboy Penthouse, and what I call girly magazines.
Right.
And they didn't know how to explain this because they knew this could help the defense
Right.
in explaining he's not a pedophile. He's not someone who's enraptured with young males.
Mm-hmm.
He's a heterosexual male who likes to look at beautiful women who are naked.
Mm-hmm.
And they came up with a way for them to explain it they thought would help them. They said your typical pedophile grooms their victim by showing sexually explicit material. So they tried to say that all of these magazines, which were everywhere, and which he had had his people going out and buying for him, they tried to say all of this was part of what a pedophile does to groom a victim. That was their explanation. I don't think it flew at all.
Right.